Hey, everybody, Jim Cummings here. And if Tigger were here, he'd say, thanks, everybody, for bouncing on in here and enjoying the show. But before we go, I want you to do me a small favor. Hit like, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying the show. Now, speaking of enjoying the show, enjoy the show.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Toon'd with Jim Cummings. I'm producer Chris. Jim Cummings, always the legend. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, another day in paradise. You'll never guess who we have on the podcast today.
Who do we have today?
Rolonda Watts. Bum, 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 bum. Psst.
You're kind.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for being here.
My joy.
Haven't seen you since our old Curious George days.
I know, and I really miss you. I miss our talks in between takes and how much fun we had in that circle.
I know.
You know, you and Frank and
oh God,
gosh,
yes.
everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff, the whole
Great
gang,
time.
The whole family.
Yeah,
That was so
days.
great. And you know what I like is that your character, she was so laid back. She was very school teachery. And then you meet you and you're going like, whoa, 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 hello.
I know. It's like Professor Wiseman. It is kind of like my alter ego.
Yes,
she's like,
she
like
is.
the perfect little lady. But yeah, I love that character though.
Yeah.
I mean, Professor Wiseman, I always, I was thinking earlier today, Jim and Chris, I was saying, the world is so crazy and we are so blessed to be able to have jobs where we make children laugh and we make children learn. And I just think how important Professor Wiseman was for me to take that role because I might get little girls to dream of being scientists and rocket scientists or being kind to animals or
that's right.
You just never know the impact you might have on a young life. So yeah, I do miss that. And Professor Wiseman with her little lilt.
That's right.
Hello, George.
Yeah. That's my favorite line when you do convention. You sound just like him. You know that.
Do you know who you sound like?
Yeah, absolutely. That's good stuff. Yeah. Oh man. So you keeping busy back there? You keeping a smile on your face, right?
Yes, I am keeping a smile on my face.
Yeah.
Listen, I went from Professor Wiseman. I've got a new animated series out that's so much fun. If you love wrestling and you love animation, you're going to love The Invincible Fight Girl. It's out on Adult Swim and Max. And it is the total opposite from Professor Wiseman.
Boy, ain't that the truth. Boy, yes,
she's an old, cantankerous wrestler, retired wrestler.
And I heard they're talking about a season 2. Is that happening?
Well, from your mouth to God's ears.
Right on.
Absolutely. I would think so. I would hope so. It's gotten really good reviews and people seem to be enjoying it. And I just think it's a great concept. I haven't seen anything else like it.
Yeah. That's always a good sign.
A little girl, a hero, trying to be a great wrestler. It's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's a role model for you. I want to grow up and slam grown women to the canvas.
Right. Oh my God. But it's so funny. It's a motley crew of kids who have a big dream and they're going for their dream. And I think that really taps into that kind of young spirit of daredevils.
Yeah. Well, we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
That is for sure. And I always ask people, when I was a little kid, I remember, I don't want to bore everybody with this, and certainly not you, but I knew what I was going to do when I was 5. And I thought that was a gift all by itself, just having that. And I'm just wondering, when did you go, you know what I'm going to do? And then your parents went, because that's what mine did. But
well, I'll tell you, when I was a little kid, I was speaking in full sentences at 11 months. And I talked so much. Yeah, I talked so much and asked so many questions. And, they say that when I was growing up, the neighbors would say they'd come over to the house and they'd say, Rolonda, would you like some juice? And I would look up at them and go, no, I'd like some Coca-Cola with ice, please. I mean, I was just
man.
speaking.
Yeah.
And so my father would give me a tape recorder and he would say, go in your room and tell the story to the tape recorder. Make up all the voices, all the sound effects,
No
and
kidding.
then come back and play it for the family after dinner. And so that's what I would do. And I look at my life today, and that's what I do to make a living, is go in that little closet, go in that little room.
Oh
and
my
talk to
God.
Yeah. And then I would line up my dolls and my stuffed toys like a classroom, and would either be teaching or maybe I was doing a talk show.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe you were.
Know? But I always say they told me I was nosy. Today they called me a journalist. They told me I was too dramatic. Today they called me an actor. They used to say I talk too much. Now I'm a talk show host.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Yeah, I got a show off. I was a show off. Oh, will you quit showing off? And I was like, yeah, but I can do this. It's okay.
Yeah, but your voices are so rich.
Oh, bless your heart.
I just like to come in the studio and just listen to you talk with that Southern.
Oh, yeah.
Louisiana.
Whoever, whichever one pops out of me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we had some good times on good old Curious.
Yeah.
That was good stuff.
George.
Yes. And then I think, were you in a thing where you had no other choice but to do this? Because that's kind of the way it rubbed over, came to me.
Well, you know what? I knew always I wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
It's something that involved a microphone and talking. So I knew all of that was going to come together. But you're right. I did have parents who said, you better have a backup plan. And then I said, well, I'll be a writer. And my father said, you take the R out of writer and put an A, it says waiter. He was like, how are you going to pay for the lights? How are you going to pay for the paper to put in your typewriter back there? And so I majored in college at Spelman in English and theater arts.
Mm-hmm.
English was the backup plan, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I had gone to Broadway when I was 12 years old, and I saw Guys and Dolls and fell in love with Miss Adelaide and said from then on I was going to be an actor.
Oh.
And I just had got to get to New York. So I graduated a year early, and I applied for Columbia University's Graduate School of Journalism, not because I wanted to be a journalist, but because I needed to get to New York. And I knew my parents would leave me alone if I was in school.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
so
right. That's right.
I got there, went to one cattle call. I said, I better go fall in love with journalism. But it involved, performing and storytelling and a microphone and all of those fun things.
Yeah.
And then I decided after my, doing the news for many years, I was an anchor woman and news reporter here in New York City. And then, Inside Edition, then the Rolonda show. When I finished my talk show, I decided to go and fulfill that dream of being the actor. I said, I don't want to be 100,000 years old, rocking on a porch going, I coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah, that's right.
So I packed up, moved to LA. And I tell you, I was there. I don't think I was there a year when there was a writer strike. And
I remember it well.
Roll with commercials and sitcoms, and everything came to a halt. And it was like either you live out the dream or you go back and you do news again. Mm-hmm. And it was like, there's no way. And then it was like the voice acting. I said, what do I have inside of me? What God gift do I have that I can use to make money right now? I was like, what am I going to do? Wow. And I always knew I had a voice. I used to call 411 and the operator knew it was Rolonda. Oh. So I thought, well, sure, I can do this. And Jim and Chris, as you guys well know, it's not about just your voice, and especially not being a broadcaster. Yeah. I couldn't catch a cold. And it wasn't until I went over to the Harve and Kathy Calmanson, and I said, help me. I don't know what's going on. And I took their class, and it opened up a whole new world. I understood I got it. And then there was no stopping. I loved it. And I swear, if I had known about voice acting before all this on-camera stuff I did, you might not have ever seen me. Oh, boy. Because I really just love the craft. And
so
I started off with Professor Wiseman was one of my first gigs, and I didn't even know I was voice acting when I was doing the Rolonda show, and because I was doing my promos. But ended up working with Divorce Court and Judge Joe Brown and
Yeah,
Now do a little bit of everything. But yeah, it's been a wonderful journey, and it has become a career, which I was just using as something to help
yeah.
participate in my own rescue.
And it's still
Turned out
going.
to be it is still going until they wheel us off, Jim.
Boy, ain't it the truth? Yeah, they'll have to pry me out with a crowbar.
I know.
You know?
They don't need a skinny waist in this industry.
No, they do not, and which is very fortunate for me. You can still pull it off, but me, I'd be hard pressed. I would be hard pressed. And what have I got here? Because is it true that on divorce court you had a very, very special phone call from an extremely, extremely special person? And I'll give you a hint. Huh? Wow.
Well, listen, it wasn't divorce court. It was the Rolonda show by Talk
Oh, it
Show.
was. Oh, okay. Good.
Yes. And it was so crazy. We used to do these shows, Gossip Fridays, and we'd have all the gossip columnists there. And all of a sudden in the middle of the show, yes, my producers were like, there's somebody on the phone for you. And I'm like,
man.
We're in the middle of doing the show. Who's on the phone? And they were like, just trust us. Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
So I pick up the phone and he's like, hey, Rolonda, this is James Brown. I know we living in America and everything, baby, but will you marry me? And the studio went nuts. I've never made more press in my life.
My goodness. Well, what was the answer, by the way?
I said, can we wait till the commercial break?
Oh, to get married? Well, that was good. That was true.
No, at that time, to be totally transparent with you, my talk show days were coming to an end because we were just not willing to go the Jerry Springer way. And I think that was James, who was a friend of mine. I think that was just his way to make a huge splash so that when I got to Hollywood, to California, people knew who I was.
Yes.
And I think that was really part of his plan. He helped start Rogers and Cowan PR, so that man knew PR better than anybody.
Wow.
But he was such a good friend, and he owned all of his music, so we had so much to teach for business.
Yeah, that's right. And he even had trading stamps. He had black and brown stamps, I remember. They were like the S&H green stamps that you save like $500. My mom used to get them from A&P, and then at the end of the month, you can get like a bag of Cheerios, a box of Cheerios. So I don't know, but he came up with his own trading stamps, his own savings stamp, and I thought how cool is this guy?
He was so brilliant, and one of my favorite memories is he flew me down on a private plane with him down to Alabama.
Get out.
Where they opened the Blues. Remember the what was the
House of Blues?
House of Blues.
Yeah.
And I rode on the back of a motorcycle with him and the Blues Brothers, Aykroyd and all of them, and it was just amazing.
Oh my God.
Those were the days. I know. It was pretty darn amazing.
Now, in a perfect world, you'd have a picture of that we could show people, said Jim, hopefully.
Well, you know what? I may just have some pictures of James Brown and I together.
Man. Well, there's not many of us can make that statement. Like, at all.
Yeah, in fact, I've got some shots of us dancing together, doing the James Brown shuffle dance.
Yeah, and and that's pre-moonwalk.
I know. Between him and dancing with Sherman Helmsley from the Jeffersons.
Oh, Jesus.
I had to get my dancing shoes on.
Yeah, you did. Oh, that's amazing. Good for you.
I'm going to steer this conversation over to acting, voice acting. And you said something very profound that I've heard in another realm of life before, and that's that technique beats talent any day. And I grew up playing football. I played professionally in Canada for a little bit through college and everything like that. And that was something that a lot of my coaches would say as well on the football field was technique, hard work. You're going to surpass the people who are just talented. Now, that's not to say that you can't have talent and still, hone the technique. But I really agree with that. And also, I'm researching your career, looking up, doing my little research for this podcast. And in my mind, I'm like, how do you jump? Because it looks on paper like you're jumping all over the place. But then I heard you say, my passion is storytelling. And then it all came together for me. It's like, okay, storytelling, because I'm an avid believer in storytelling too. And could you just expand on that technique versus talent and storytelling for us, please?
Sure. I teach a voice acting masterclass, and I am really big on, helping students understand, or helping anybody who wants to be a voice actor understand that it's not just about having a great voice. In fact, it's great if you have a great voice, but it's really about the craft. It's about acting. It's about learning how to connect human to human, whether you're playing Curious George or whether you're doing an Uptrovy commercial. It's about connecting to that human spirit.
Sure,
human to
yeah.
human, and they don't get to see you.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? You have to have some kind of technique to sear through that broadcast and tell a complete story in less than 30 seconds sometimes.
Yeah.
So how do you layer that? Those are techniques. How do you make it real? I mean, how are you authentic? How are you true not only to the character, but to the writing and to humanity and to your own special sauce?
How have you
There's
stayed
so
true to
much
yourself
going
in your
on, I
career?
think, But I think that the technique, even in breathing correctly, I mean, you can have all the great talent and voice in the world, but if you get in that booth and the director starts throwing stuff at you and you freak out and start sweating and your voice closes up and you don't know what to,
Yeah.
and you freeze up, you don't have the techniques to do the job because you can't calm down.
Yeah.
Those are acting techniques.
You ever do Wim Hof?
No,
No.
I love, I tell you who I love is Uta Hagen,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a big Meisner. I love Meisner. Those were just that for physical acting. Those are the legends that I follow and love, and I find that they have a lot to do. I think they interplay with voice acting as well,
Mm-hmm.
and both crafts help me either way.
Yeah.
You talk about how do you flip from one to the other. I did a play 2 years ago down in Washington, D.C. It was a trilogy, 3 plays at one time. And I played 10 different characters ranging from age 9 to 79.
True.
And you best believe my voice acting came in so handy there.
Oh, yeah.
Because but the joy was I got the costumes and I got to physically act the body. But if I were playing those roles in my closet studio, I would probably still be doing the little things the 9-year-old
Yeah.
does.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Body stuff.
Well, it informs it. It informs your performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
And those are little techniques. It's just not going in reading. You're acting.
Yeah.
And I think that there are techniques that come with that craft. It's an art. It's an art form.
Yeah, boy, you're not kidding. Well, body language is a language.
Mm-hmm. It's a whole body thing.
Yeah. Wow.
And even like breathing and hydrating and knowing what to do, the techniques of how do you stay hydrated? How do you clear your throat? Little things. How do you care for that wonderful instrument called your voice?
Mm-hmm.
You know who I think is a big on technique as well is Caitlin Robrock. I'm not sure how much time you guys got to spend together doing Invincible Fight Girl. But we had her on the podcast and she struck me as just like knowledgeable about like the littlest facets of technique. I mean, holy cow, she was dedicated.
Yeah.
It was really inspiring to hear.
You can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear it in their voice, so to speak. But you also bring up storytelling, and I got a few years on you, young man. But Chris, listen, it wasn't that long ago, but that if you dreamed of doing all the things that I do today, they would have you committed. They would say you are unfocused, you are schizophrenic, you just aren't. Thank God I matured into a world that accepts multifaceted and multiple streams of income getting your hustle on so you don't have to do one thing all your life. But when I started connecting the dots, because I tend to do it seamlessly, it's only because it's all storytelling.
Yeah.
It's all the same thing. It's just a different medium to tell great stories.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true.
Whether it's writing a novel or asking questions, telling stories on a talk show or a podcast or playing a character, they're all all backstories and stories that you're telling.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've always said that storytelling, it's like one of the oldest cultural things that we as humans have. I mean, we were telling stories before we knew how to read or write, before we had
Look at
written
the
language.
cave.
Exactly.
Sitting around,
Exactly.
sitting around the campfire.
Yeah, we're
That's
cave
right.
painting,
Pounding
we're
rocks
telling
together.
stories
Yeah.
That's right.
that last
And I
thousands
think,
and thousands of years.
yeah, and I think that's the way. It's the most human thing you can do. And I think
Mhm.
stories are things that bring us together
Hmm.
Mhm.
during the most wonderful times and through the most difficult times.
Mhm.
People sitting around the campfire sharing stories. Boy, that really brings humans together.
Oh,
That's the
yes, it
touch of
does.
humanity that I think that
Sure.
stories do.
And from culture to culture, from India to France, Italy, Egypt, Africa, there's so many of the stories. Excuse me, like for instance, the heroes. There's always a hero somewhere over there. There's always some village that has to be saved. Some people that some dam is breaking. Somebody's fixing something, and we have that commonality. It's all built within us to hear the story of our people, whoever your people are. And
That's right.
in America, your people are everybody. So
Uh-huh.
we got a lot of stories.
And as Southerners,
Yeah.
we weave yarns. I mean,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
like sitting on the porch, hanging up the clothes. Everything's got a story to go behind it. Hey,
Oh,
did you hear
yeah.
about that? And it's that's what connects us so
Yeah.
much.
Oh, very, very true. Yeah. Well, spending all
Yeah,
those years in New Orleans, I hear you.
yeah.
I
I think we all want our babies fed and our houses warm, and
yeah.
and and all want the same thing in life. And
Yeah.
good stories, even those things where like, wow, I've never heard that before, but that's cool. Never thought about it that way.
Hmm.
Mhm.
They help you grow too. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're in the right business.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Now, let me ask you, when you go out, do you enjoy when people, you be sitting there at a restaurant and somebody look over, and do you enjoy that? Is that
It's really nice. It's nice. And like I said, I told you I had this one person who came up and said, "Do you know who you are?"
oh. Well,
But
did you?
it's funny, especially coming back to New York, where people remember me starting in my 20s, beating the
Yeah.
pavement here, covering news. It's really lovely. I
Yeah.
really like it. But I tell you, thank goodness I'm not like a rock star where people don't
Yeah.
chase me down the street. They're
Yeah.
not asking for my autograph and all that. They just come up and say, "I really enjoy your work and I remember you on the news," or something like that. It's very, very nice.
Yeah.
But I tell you, I've changed my hair and so much that if they don't see me as soon as I open my mouth, then they know me. It's
That's
my
right.
voice that
That's right.
gives me away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're sitting there and you're ordering your food and you go, "Do you know who you are?" "Hey everybody, look," and it's like, "Okay, shut up.
I know.
Just
Yeah.
bring me
But
my damn pancakes."
that's our bread and butter. So
Yeah.
it's like, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. So
Mhm.
thank you.
Yeah.
Especially now after 40 years, you still remember me. I love you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
One of my first jobs, I got to work with Sally Struthers. God love her,
Oh,
great gal.
love her.
And the whole world knew her from all of it. She was amazing. Archie Bunker's wife, and she says, and I said, "So is it? I mean, because part of me thinks that's cool as hell, walking down the street. And everybody knows me. I mean, you kidding me? But then I've since backed away from that considerably, and it is true that she said, "Well, put it this way, hon. If you go to the store and you have like 10 things on your grocery list, you'll be out in 20 minutes. Takes me 3 hours, and I
Yeah.
still getting just those same stinking 10 things." And
Well,
so
yeah. Jim, I will say this. I've always wanted to be admired for my work more
sure,
than be a celebrity. I
there you
didn't
go.
just want to go do all this to be famous. I just really wanted to make an impact in a positive way with my art or my work or whatever.
Mm.
So I never really. I'm so glad I can still walk down the street and live a normal life. and still get a good seat at the table.
Yeah,
Get a good table at a restaurant, or might get a bump up on the airplane because people were.
That's having your cake and eating it
I'm
too.
not. And in this day and age, oh my gosh, it's so hard to be a celebrity. People are so something these days.
Yeah,
celebrity.
yeah.
So I'm in a good place. I've known just enough.
Good. Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, peace of mind's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and you were saying when you go out. I was trying to remember, when do I go out?
Oh, well, no.
4 o'clock used to be happy hour. Now it's nap time, Jim.
No, Wait, what time is it here? Let me verify that.
I know. It's like,
Ooh, it's getting close to 4.
My bedtime's coming up.
Yeah, well, it's 3:20 here, so I'll catch up to you. I'll see you down at the corner pub.
Yeah, but I'm finding I like life simple, you know. And that's why, that's another reason why I love voice acting so much is being able. I mean, I kind of like the solopreneurship of it at times.
Uh-huh.
I do miss going into the studio and seeing you guys, very much.
Yeah, I agree.
But there's something to be said for having your own time and space, and but I miss the direction, I miss the camaraderie, I miss the human touch.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm. Well, I think the shows are better. The cartoons are better when everybody's there, because acting is reacting. I've said it before. It's just more organic. It feels right.
Yeah.
And if you ad lib a line and my line follows it, my line doesn't work that well anymore because you said something smarter than what they wrote, and they're going to keep it. Now, and then, but on the other hand, if that means they have to give you another session to come in and fix the line, okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. I'll take your money.
Weren't you playing Chef Sketty?
Yeah, Chef Paschetti.
Chef Paschetti and your wife. So you two would have great chemistry in the room.
Yes.
So, that's a perfect example of how, working off each other, because you guys were so great, and her little deep voice.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the Chef Paschetti. He's an amalgamation of probably 2 or 3 of my friends, Jimmy DeSalvo's dad, and they talk. What's the matter with you? Get your face out of here, And it's this.
But you know something, we know that guy. Everybody knows that guy.
Yeah.
There's that connection thing, but that is just. And I love your Firefly, but you really talk about schizophrenic. Oh. You're Winnie the Pooh and Tigger too. I mean, come on. Well,
yeah. it helps that we're schizophrenic, and so are we. So that helps. That helps. Yeah. It's crowded in here.
What's your approach to creating voices? Jim just kind of mentioned, taking impressions or family members. What's your creative approach to creating a character voice for voiceover?
Well, if you're lucky enough to get the illustration, that's great.
Yeah.
But I think it's thinking, just to taking a moment to think about what is their backstory. I mean, what's the whole point of them being here? What are they really saying? And trying to make each line have its own life. Because the writers work so hard on every single word. Those attorneys have fought over those words. Yeah. So what are we really saying here? What's the story we're trying to tell? And who is this person? I try to add a little, I'm kind of known for adding a little laughter into my stuff.
Sure.
Like, oh, come on, George. Incorporating a little laughter of high energy. Let's see, building a character. I look at their face. I look at their body. If they've got the mouth down like this, then they probably,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You can, or what they're, or I'll imagine it. If I'm playing a queen, what does she have on? Does she walk out of the room with her cape? So you add some movement into that. Or
is it more Latifah?
Or even ticks and things are good. The little ticks like that, a little something.
That's very true. Very, very true.
But you have to explore it and find it. And sometimes the character finds you. Mm. Sometimes that voice is just in you and you have no idea where it came from. It just came out.
Yeah. I mean, even in your explanation just now, physicality is such a big part of it, correct? I mean, even just in the couple voices that you just did there, I can see the physical transformation, which really indicates your voice or directs your voice.
Yeah. And what age is the person? And then sometimes you just want to be serious and maybe not so serious. You know, you can age or place, accents.
Oh gosh,
Picks.
Yeah, the more information you have, the better, I think. Don't you think? You know, it's like
absolutely. What's really good is when you get the specs and they tell you this person's authoritative. They like to slice babies in half.
Yes. That's one of my faves.
And you want to go through those specs, I always think, and try to give them a little glimpse of each of those things they are asking for.
Yeah.
Where can I be funny? Where can I be sadistic? Where can I show a little something to make you lean in?
Yeah. You know, I have a little mini rule in my head that is either going to work for other people or it's not. But I always say, well, I always with every audition, I read it. I read the specs. What's he this? Is he that? Is he blah, 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 blah. And then I do my best to get right up next to every aspect they're looking for in that character. Just nail it, jump in, do it, and then I give them the right take afterward because it'll be mine. Now here's what it should be, and of course you don't want to say that out loud. You don't want to.
But no, every casting director in history always waits for your third take, Jim. I can almost tell.
Yeah.
And what's he gonna do on that last thing?
Yeah. And sometimes they I think I've said it before. I call it sending up a flare. You got to send up a flare because and I've had people tell me this. I want to say it might have been a character, Don Carnage. He was a pirate for Chippendale's Rescue Rangers, or Tailspin was it? No, Tailspin. And I can remember. See, and everybody, as soon as they hear the word pirate, they're going over to England there, and they're going to be Long John Silver, And we've only heard that about 10,000 times. But guess what? And oddly enough, a few short years later, they made a movie called Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, I'm not saying I inspired it. Yes, I am. But, okay, I'm actually not. But he was from, I don't know where he was from, but he was not from jolly old England. I tell you that right between the face. And that was my buddy, Don Carnage. And I call that sending up a flare. Give them what they want. Give them what they ask for. And then send up a flare, because at the end of the day, they're listening to argy, bargy, 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 and they go, blah, 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 blah. Well, what was that again? Let me hear that again. And I think that's just good advice for the rookies for anybody, because it kind of seems to work. So
I'll tell you something else too. If when you even play animals, I will go on YouTube University and look up how this particular cat walks, how they sound when they meow. So she's perfect when I get ready to do her. I can tell. Because different cats or Siamese cats are different than big old Persian cats. That's a whole different voice.
Bum, 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 bum. I'm trying to follow you. I'm trying to give you a soundtrack here. I got you.
Exactly. Or just or even sometimes we have to play trucks. How does that truck move?
Yeah. Oh God.
Little things like that. But animals, looking up what a spider. What's the sound of a spider or a chipmunk or a So I think the research is always good. And even pirates, I had to play a pirate and had to look up what is a pirate. There's a whole pirate thing about how you're supposed to speak as a pirate. And they say because they smoke and they do lots of rum in the sea, the voice is supposed to be a little,
Oh,
cranky.
yeah. A little bit smoky, a little bit choky. Yeah.
Yeah, all that rum burning your throat.
Yeah, that will do it.
And the salty
that rot
seas.
gut.
Yeah. Stuff like that.
You've had such an illustrious career. You've been successful in multiple different avenues. I'm curious, has there ever been a time in your career where you've doubted yourself or felt down on yourself, discouraged, etc.?
Let me think.
She's like, hell no.
Something. If I did, it wasn't for long.
Yeah.
I don't like being down. And
Nice.
I'll give myself 15 minutes and then that's it.
So follow up on that, then how do you keep yourself motivated?
Yeah, I think always knowing that that bad doesn't last always. That
That's
the sun
right.
is going to come up in the morrow, and you just have to wait it out. That you do what you have control over. But I can remember being frustrated doing the talk show when everything turned Jerry Springer, and I was like, I am so in the wrong place right now because nobody wants to do. We were getting kids out of prison and gangs, and we were doing great stuff on my show, and then they wanted to do, baby mama's drama, and I was like, that's just not who I am.
Did you see that?
I was like, you have an internationally syndicated talk show. You are able to touch so many lives, but this is what the market wants you to do?
Yeah.
No, not with my talent. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, good for you.
And I said, I don't know what's out there. And then when it comes to the money, you weren't making the same kind of money, being an artist that you were being a talk show host. Mm-hmm. But I had my integrity intact.
That's right.
And I never looked back on that because I knew that, and there were some miserable times during those days.
Well,
and it's hard to say I'm miserable because I'm doing a talk show, but if it's not fitting right with your soul, you have to find.
Yeah, they couldn't pay me enough to be Jerry Springer. They don't have enough money. There ain't enough money.
I don't know how Jerry and Geraldo sometimes. And Maury, I don't know how they do it, but listen, people love it.
Yeah,
they sure did.
They gave them what the market. The one thing I will say about Jerry is Jerry did exactly what he promised he would do: make a bunch of money.
Yeah, yeah, and drag everybody down to his level.
Drag everybody
down to his level. Oh.
Did you guys see that documentary on Netflix about Jerry Springer pretty recently?
Yeah.
Like a month or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was.
I wish they got deeper into it.
And talk.
I wish they got deeper into it. It felt kind of shallow.
I was doing, and now on the Rolonda show, and didn't even know I was a voice actor at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think what keeps you motivated is having a plan and having dreams. I think that people don't dream big enough sometimes, or stop dreaming.
Look at that.
And you need to sit down and think about it.
Wait a minute, I got to carve that into stone. What was that again? Give me that again, because that was righteous.
But I think that's, you can't stop dreaming. Mm-hmm. And that's always meaning something is coming, something before. As Della Reese told me one time, because I was like, Auntie Della, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm in Hollywood now. I'm totally a fish out of water here. I don't know what's going to happen. No, she said
it more like this.
I know. She did all She tell it like it is. And she said, honey, you don't have to know when it's coming. You just know that it's coming. And I said, faith is such a big part of what this artistry or life is about. And I think believing that you have to respond and be a participant in your own rescue. I think when I found myself under the gun, I learned to shoot.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And duck.
I had to survive.
And occasionally duck.
Right. They call me the reinventionist. They just didn't know how many times I was ducking, dodging bullets.
Oh, man. Boy, I'll tell you, if there's an admirable trait, that's one.
Yeah. Well, something, I sat myself down when we were going through it. I think it was COVID or I don't know what. So everything was, all hell was breaking loose. I think it was during COVID and everything. I was about to go on tour for stand-up comedy. We were doing, performers stopped and here I was sitting on a house and it was like, ugh. And I said, what am I going to do? Yeah,
it's always nice to make a house payment, isn't it?
Yeah. And I said, well, if you don't go within, you're going to go without. Yeah. And so I learned to teach. I started teaching, I'd learned and coaching and reinvention and just found other talents that I had,
Yeah. And that is one thing that we all discovered. We can do things like a buddy of mine, Steve Bloom. He has a voiceover class and he lives in Hawaii. Uh-huh. And he's on the horn with people from Rhode Island,
That's right.
And he's doing his thing. And
right.
He's suffering through.
And COVID really helped facilitate a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I tell kids today, I said, if we did what we did, and there were only 3 stations.
Yeah.
And you've got all of this world here at your fingertips.
Yeah.
all you have to do is sit down and think about it, strategize and dream, and then take action, and everything will fall into place. And I also believe that the universe is it's pulling for us. You know, God believes in matching grants. You do your half, he'll do his half, you'll be okay.
Yeah. Boy,
you believe
that's
in
so true.
The law of attraction and manifestation?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even little things. I used to wear a subway token around my neck from 12 years old. And it got me to New York. It said New York on one side, good for one fare. That was back when it had the Y.
And the Y? Yeah, I knew it. I know the one.
Way back.
I had that one. I had one of those.
Yeah, wow. I wore it around my neck, and I would just hold that thing and say, I'm going to New York City.
Yeah.
And I would polish it with steel wool, and it shined like 18 karat gold. My daddy gave me a little gold chain.
Shined like the top of the Chrysler building, right?
It sure did. It was just as shiny and beautiful, and I still have it, and I'm going to put it back on because I got back to New York.
Oh.
And then when I was moving from New York to L.A., I don't know how this happened. It's kismet. I was in a melancholy mood, wondering what in the world I'm going to do now that the talk show's over. I'm walking through Times Square. I was looking for a sign. I figured you'd find one in Times Square. And it was back when you had those postcards and you'd wheel them around on the postcard wheel. And I'm just wheeling and wheeling. And the wheel stopped. And there was this long Hollywood sign. It was the crooked letters of Hollywood. And I said, why is this sign? And I picked it up and I looked at the guy in the booth there selling newspapers. And I said, hey, guess what? I'm going to Hollywood. He said, good luck, 50 cents.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And I was off. And do you know that same postcard sat in my corner office in Hollywood? There was the real Hollywood sign and my little poster was in the window right under. So I do believe in manifestation. I do believe in positive thinking. I do believe in scripting. And I'm proof of the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the secret, right?
Like in our acting, if you see it, I'll see it.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, I'm a big fan of if you can imaginate it. If you can squeeze it into your imagination, you can get it back out.
That's right. I like that.
You know, and you can make it real. Because, you know, I worked in steel mills, like I've said before, and deckhand on a riverboat. I have no business being here talking to you.
And you bring all of that richness to everything you do.
That's
Jim.
true. That's true.
You really do.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all do.
About the people that you've collected along the way. They're delicious.
Yeah. Well, I've had a couple nuns in there. I've had a couple, you know, my old, I've said this before, the deckhand, I was a deckhand. One of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle bad guys was him. Léonce Leblanc. He was from Napoleonville, Louisiana. And he was Leatherhead on Ninja Turtles. You know, I've told this before. I don't want to reiterate too much, but I think, you know, and there's a quote by James Dean. I'm going to screw it up, but it was something to the tune of, if you're going to be a successful actor, whatever time, you have to be a successful sponge first. And you absorb this. You get, you know, the guy at the corner store, you know, the paper boy, you fill in the blank, you know, grandma, you know, she's in there. Pull those all together and you know, they're not going to be perfect impressions or whatever anyway, but you filter that through your own sensibility and out comes a new character and it works.
Yeah.
It works.
And it feels good to pay homage to those people.
Yeah.
I've got a cackle that I do.
I know you do.
And it's just, aha. It's just, because she used to always go, aha. If she was impressed, it was, ha.
Yes.
And you will hear that cackle pop out.
Yes.
And I just say, there you are, Auntie.
Yeah. And I bet you can't even do that without crossing your arms like you just did because you fell right into it.
But she just like,
I know.
It's a body thing.
Now I know what she looked like.
Yeah.
That's really good. I love that stuff.
We're blessed to have this opportunity to lend a voice and an ear For sure. And Jim, I've got to tell you, working in that studio with you and God, the greats of Curious George,
Oh.
I learned so much because remember, that was one of my first gigs.
Mm.
Going way back. I mean, that was 20 something.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were kids,
So
really.
Mere children. And we had so much fun in that doggone studio. It was ridiculous. And you would swear a monkey was in there for real.
Oh, God. Yeah, Frank
and it
is
would be
amazing.
like, okay, can we get back to the script now? Because we'd all be like having so much fun.
Yeah. Well, I always joke around. I said, well, you can use a real ape or a real monkey or a real dragon, but if you, for sound effects here and there, but if you want it to sound real, then you got to get Frank Welker.
You gotta get Frank. I'll never forget so we were doing one scene and the young lady, I forget her name, she walked in, she came in, she walked up to the mic, she went, meow, meow. She said, okay, see you everybody, and left. And she left, and Frank said, that was the most expensive meow in Hollywood.
Yeah. I think that might have been Debbie Derryberry.
Debbie Derry, that's who it was.
Yeah.
Debbie Derry.
Yeah, she's about 4 feet tall. Cute as a button. Cute as a bug's ear, as Rob would say. Yep, I remember it. That would be her.
Ray Delisle. We had all the greats come through. William Macy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, God rest his soul.
God rest his soul.
Yeah, oh man.
Wow.
We must have been having fun.
But that's the other thing about voice acting. You never know where it will take you.
Mm.
Like I've gotten to work with people like you, Jim, and Frank, and also like Keith David.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, people that are like even Tyler Perry. I did his first animation.
Oh really?
Yeah, he did an animated movie. Is his only animation he's done. It's called Medea's Tough Love. And I play the evil mayor, Betsy Holiday, and I fight with him the entire movie. But that was fabulous, and got to work with Charlie Adler on that.
Oh,
one.
Yeah.
And so just, out of the other careers that I've had, it's been fascinating to meet just some of the most talented people that I've learned from along the way.
Yeah, I agree.
That has been just fantastic.
Yeah. And not to name drop or anything, but you with your with stage, television, on camera, it's like you can dip into that because you have that nice background. And people, I remember working with Rita Moreno once, who won every Emmy and Grammy and Oscar or whatever. And she just sat there like she was 12 years old, listening to us all, spit out all these weird characters. She goes, I can't believe it. This is great. Do you know that it's impossible to be too much? I can't be too much. Because I'm always, okay, Rita, calm down. Not so much. Give me a little less. I see where you're going with this. I appreciate it, but less. It's like I can't be too much now.
And I thought it's so crazy because that's so true. You get a bunch of voice actors together, and there may be 3 of you, but there are 20 people in the room.
Yeah. And
I never dreamed I would be one of those people, and now I'm one of those people.
Oh, you're one now. Yeah, we're not letting you go. That's great.
Oh, gosh.
And so now I hear too, one among your many accolades is that of author.
Yes, where is my book?
Where is your book? Said Jim sincerely.
Where is it? It's around. Yes, it's called Destiny Lingers. Time moves on, but destiny lingers. And it's a wonderful romance suspense novel. It's endorsed by Dr. Maya Angelou. And it's about a news reporter who's covering every story but her own life until she discovers this long strand of red hair stretched across her husband's bedpillow. And the only person she knows with bright red hair is her best friend. But anyway, this whole story.
That's comfy.
Listen, that strand of red hair is going to unravel all kinds of illicit truths.
Ooh.
And she goes down to North Carolina to get her head back together and meets this police chief. And there's this uncanny familiarity, and come to find out, he was the little boy she was in love with but couldn't be with as a kid because of segregation. But time moves on and destiny lingers. And it's like, what would you do at a second chance at your first love?
Okay. I'm off to Barnes & Noble. I got to go. That's wonderful.
I will happily send you a copy.
I will happily read it.
Yeah. And you know what? It's gotten awards. And like I said, Dr. Maya Angelou endorsed it. And
That
I'm
works.
really proud of it. I'm really proud. It was the hardest thing I think I've ever done,
No kidding.
but it was so rewarding.
Yeah, yeah.
And I pray I would live long enough to get another one out.
Well, what
But
do
I
we?
did the audiobook. I did the audiobook.
Oh, okay. That
Yeah.
counts.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, the audiobooks are tough.
Yeah. Yeah. They asked me to do one a long, long time ago, and I kind of.
Jim, I can't see you sitting in that room for 4 hours
No,
every day.
no, it was just. But there's one that I would do, and it's called A Confederacy of Dunces. And it's about a crazy guy from good old New Orleans who is the quirkiest, wildest guy ever. And I recommend that book to anybody. And A Confederacy of Dunces. And anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, but that's good. I mean, author, you've got a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Wear a lot of hats.
And last year, I'm telling you, talk about where your voice can take you. I got inducted into the Emmys, into the Silver Circle, which is 40 years of contribution to daytime television.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of what they included in that honor was my voice work, like on Divorce Court and on Sherry, which you hear every morning on Sherry. And so that I didn't realize that could be, that I could grow up and win it. I thought it would be in my news business or talk shows.
Sure.
But it was included in my body of work. So I'm really proud of that too.
Boy,
So,
I bet you are.
As you should be.
yeah.
Rightly so. That's wonderful.
You said that you found a character that you played in League of Legends, Alawi, very rewarding, because it was one of the first empowering female characters in video games that was mainly male dominated at the time. I think it's shifted a little bit, but still probably more men in video games than women.
Yeah. At that time, it was mostly guys. Yeah. And
Gotta be.
they were, and to have this introduction of this champion character that's a female, and she's tough. I mean, she is a warrior, but she's also spicy and sexy, So it was talk about, how do you build that character? Well, when you see the character, she's huge, but she's gorgeous. And they write some stuff in there that makes her really sexy. And you remember, you're talking to 18 to 26-year-old guys mainly.
Oh, boy.
So you got to bring that element in, because they got those headphones on and they're with her. So you got to make her fabulous. Like he's got her all to herself. So you got to make that. So she was sexy and sassy and funny. And she's funny.
Oh, cool.
But she's strong. And that was really exciting for me, because it was good for women to see that, but also for guys to know that they could have a kick butt champion and win the game with a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
She goes, I like to have you for dinner, maybe barbecue. So there's all these double entendres to her. That was also an exciting time because they wanted a West African accent. I didn't know what a West
African. What would that be like?
Well, it's just, for me, it was just more, more the pronunciation and the pronouncing of the words.
Oh,
and
okay.
everything is like the D's, they don't pronounce the TH, the diphthong is gone. So and they didn't want me going duh, but to to kind of connect it so it still had the African lack of the diphthong. So it's kind of, but mostly it is more power like this in the way that they speak. So it's very pronounced and very deep. And I am a Lawi and I will kill you.
Yeah.
Or your type of,
Wow.
Yeah. But listen, was it West African? Who knows?
Yeah.
But they believe it is. And it has I like even tell my students, I say, listen, if you're not from West Africa, chances are you're not going to nail, or you're not from France, chances are you're not going to nail France. But you can give the essence, the purest, truest, authentic essence of that you can.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Yeah.
Yes. Now, when it comes to that, is that, because I was going to ask you if you had, is there a lot of advice that you could give? Any advice that you can give about how, an audition comes up and what do you do? Do you call up your friends to read with you? Do you?
Yeah, I mean, if I was a beginner, well, first of all, my first thing is please take a class.
Yeah.
Even if it's a workshop or it's a 6-week intensive, or I don't care. Please go to a conference, but learn the language, learn what the industry expects of you, how to break down those scripts and tap into those emotions. So all of that, my the motto of my master class is, when you're prepared, you're no longer scared. So prepare yourself for that. But I would say, really pay attention to, okay, so you get the script and you're ready for the audition. Really pay attention to what those specs or the descriptions are. Underline what's jumping out at you and think about those things. Read it. I read it through 5-10 times out loud. I'll read it in different voices as I'm warming up my voice and these 41 muscles. And I'm finding the rhythm of the pacing. Where can I slow down? Where is tone? Where's volume? I'm using all of those techniques that are going to get me through this commercial or whatever it is. And I just, I don't want my script to sound like paper. By the time I'm behind that mic, I want it to feel a little leathery, which means I've marked my script. And I try to look at each line as its own thought, like it's bringing a different message. And that also keeps your performance from being monotone straight through.
Oh, well, yeah, that's for sure.
You know what I mean? And it's more interesting. I mean, we don't speak in straight sentences the same every time. We slow down, we laugh. I mean, we bring up the color and flavor into it.
Gotta find the beats.
And then, looking for, and the bottom line is having fun. I mean, where can you really have fun with this? If you don't have fun with it and think in the back of your head, listen, I don't know, I don't have control over where I'm going to get this gig or not, but I know that casting director is going to hear me do some great work. And if I don't get this one, then I'm auditioning for the next time, the next opportunity. Just keep showing up at the mic. And, I heard Joe Cipriano say, I might audition 100 times and finally get the job. And then all of us went, phew, thank God we're not the only ones. I mean, that pile can grow. If you're lucky, you're getting auditions. But sometimes it can be a long time before booking the job.
Yeah. Well, I remember auditioning for, I can't even remember what the hell it was, but I thought for sure I was nailing this one character. And they go, well, you got the job. Oh, good. No, it's not for that one. It's for the hobo that lives under the bridge or something. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, but have a job? Yeah. Okay, good. That's okay, good. Yeah. That's I'll take it. Beggars can't be choosers.
And I always look at that, because if you look at it like, here's another audition I'm not going to make. Here's another rejection. Why do it? I'm not going to get it. You go down that rabbit hole, that spiral, and that funky attitude is going to affect everything.
Yeah.
So I just have gratitude that I got the audition.
That's
and then
right.
I just try to give it the best I can and do the best work I can.
That's a key to happiness right there anyway, gratitude.
Yeah.
Our buddy Dennis Prager wrote that. And I think it's so true. If you're grateful, you can't be resentful. If you're grateful, you can't be unhappy.
Jim, I woke up in a funk this morning. I'll be totally transparent. I was grouchy. I was grumpy. I was blah, 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 blah. And then I said, would you just stop it?
Yeah.
I said, I love my pillow. I love my bed. I love my pajamas. I'm really grateful for it. And it got to a point where I was having a ball. I was grateful for the pencil, the pen that was, and I really shifted my attitude. Well, good. Really does work, because I don't have time to think about anything else, about my packed Facebook page and all of this other stuff. It's,
Look at these pancakes. How can I be sad with these damn pancakes sitting there?
I'm so grateful that I got syrup and butter too.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, God. Oh, that's wonderful. That is wonderful.
Do you think we should do some voice swaps?
And, well, explain to her what this is. This is a weird little thing that we do with people. And we're thinking of even incorporating singing into it in the future. So see what you think.
All right. So this is a little voice swap game we play. And how it'll go, Jim will say one line, an iconic line of one of his characters. Say Winnie the Pooh, how about a smackerel of honey? And then you'll repeat that same line in one of your iconic characters, and then we'll go vice versa. How's that sound?
Oh, let me find some more. Okay. Oh, my God. And what do I say?
You just repeat the line.
What he said,
Yeah.
but repeat the line.
I'll come up with some kind of line. Who should we do? Pooh, Tigger, Darkwing?
I have here Professor Wiseman and Chef Pischetti.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. That's
That's nice. Okay. Professor, see, now we're talking. That is excellent. Okay. All right. I'm ready. I got a Chef Pischetti line for you.
Okay.
And I'll give it to you. Then you give it to me back and Professor Wiseman. Does that sound about right? Okay. So here's Chef Pischetti talking to Jordan. Giorgio, I need you to do me a favor, eh? Deliver this to Professor Wiseman. It's my Pischetti. That was kind of long, sorry.
George, I need you to do me a favor. Go and deliver the spaghetti to Professor Wiseman.
Perfect. You sound just like you. That's my favorite when they go.
I can just remember the lines.
Yeah, I know. That was unduly long. I'm sorry. And now feel free to lay something on me and whatever character pops into your head, or Professor Wiseman.
How about Aunt P?
Oh, Aunt P. Andy, what do you want? I told you I'm not going to help you be a wrestler.
That's got to be Lucky Piquel.
Okay, here's Lucky Piquel from Bonkers, and it's
Andy, I told you before, I'm not going to help you be a wrestler.
Andy, I told you before, I'm not gonna help you be a wrestler. Jesus. I sounded just like you.
I feel like that's something Lucky would say.
Yeah, it is. Bonkers. Yeah, that's true.
And then I'm thinking, I all of a sudden, Mary Sinclair, Andy, I told you, I am not going to help you be a wrestler. That's from Lego City Adventure.
Mary Sinclair, I told you I am not going to help you steal honey and be a wrestler. I couldn't resist. I had to jump in there.
That's my favorite.
A little
you
bonus
just make
Pooh.
me want to hug Pooh.
Good. Yeah, where was Pooh when I was single? Just kidding. Oh, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you very much.
So
that was
welcome.
awesome.
And I hope your family's doing well. And
Godspeed. Yeah, so far so good.
And do you have anything to plug? Obviously, go buy your book.
yeah, and you've got Invincible Fight Girl on Adult Swim and Max. Coming up March 27th, I'm going to be playing a recurring role in Survival of the Thickest, Michelle Buteau sitcom on Netflix. And then
Sweet.
in the summer, we're going to be in season 2 of Bounce TV's Mind Your Business, another sitcom. So I got 2 sitcoms coming up. And I'm going to be doing some stand-up comedy around the city. Got a show tomorrow night at Comedy Village, and then I'll be at Comedy in Harlem this weekend. And,
Wow.
the hustle is real.
Right on.
God bless. Fantastic. And if I may, find out more information, go to www.rolonda.com. I almost said your last name. Rolonda.com or Instagram, Rolonda Watts.
That's right. ROLONDA. And if you want to learn voice acting, I do teach a voice acting masterclass, and you can go to the website, rolonda.com, and find out all about that too.
Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Listen,
Rolonda
thank you. This was so much
Watts.
fun.
Yeah, that
Thank
was really
you.
fun. Thank you so much again for doing that. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
and I
it.
want you guys to come and talk to my class.
Okay.
Let's
we
do
will.
it.
Yeah,
Let's
I would
make it
love
happen.
that. Or my podcast
Can
whenever I
do.
bring it back.
Can do. We have the technology.
Yes, indeed. That would be great. That would be great.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored. And it was so good to see you. So good to see you guys.
Same
Yeah, it was nice
here.
meeting you. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you too, Chris. And Jim, always great to see you.
See you around
All right.
campus.
Okay.
All right,
See ya.
everybody. Thanks for tuning in. That was another episode of Tuned In with Jim Cummings. Today we were joined by Rolonda Watts. Thank you again so much for being here. If you guys like this content, don't forget there's even more content on Patreon. Thank you to all of our Patreon subscribers. You guys are awesome. You can find bonus content, interviews that we don't even air here on YouTube. There's a whole lot of extra stuff that you could be seeing. So thank you to all you guys there and here on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. I'm producer Chris, Jim Cummings, Rolonda Watts. Thank you again. We'll see you later. We'll see you later.
See you later.
See you later.
Yes,
See you
that
later.
too. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thanks
Well,
again.
have a good
Lydia.
evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Rolonda.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was great. She was wonderful.